opportunity. There's always an opportunity from the back end to the front end. So if you look at manufacturing as manufacturing, you probably might not even be involved or engaged in the production stage to the sales stage. You can be involved in the servicing, in the soft ones. Let me give you an example. If I'm involved in the manufacturing of X, I will need soft packaging and I will need hard packaging. I will need people to do my inventory for me. I will need people to supply my supply chain. That's probably my raw materials. And there's a lot to gain manufacturing. I had a gentleman come to my office yesterday after 8 years of interface. I hadn't seen him for 8 years. And when he came, he said to me, how could we be part of this? And I said to him that, last year I was even looking for someone that would help my supply chain because I had a budget that I felt that I do not have enough cash flow to meet my production. But I needed somebody to come in and bring in X amount of money to cushion my cash flow and push my production. Because the man I found could not come up with the collateral for the bank. And they asked me to come and give him guarantee. And I said, if I have a guarantee to give, then I'll collect the facility myself. So in manufacturing, the opportunities there are not just for the people that have the machines, or have the structures. There's so much. We just engage, in my facility, we just engage somebody to build, operate, and sell power to us that we want to get out of the national grid. And we came to an agreement. I signed an agreement with him, and I said to him, provide me power at the cost that NEPA is giving me, or whatever you call them now, PHCN. Provide me power at the cost that they're giving me. I will buy power from you for the next 5 years and give me 24-hour power. And we signed an agreement. And by this week, the guy has put in his generator because I gave him a plot of land for 32 square meters. I was calling him yesterday to say it's even quite more, it needs more space than 32 square meters. Now, he's benefiting from manufacturing because by the time we set up that system, I have told him to speak to other manufacturers around that he could give power to. Even though I have a contract to sign him off in another 4 years. So in 4 years' time, I probably might take over the business to increase my own cash flow. But what I'm saying is that, and this guy is a young chap. I met him in this church. We got talking. And I gave him the idea, and he's running with the idea. So today is not just to look at manufacturers as manufacturers. The gentleman that is going to come is going to talk to you about the opportunities that are in manufacturing, the challenges that they face. But what I like we did last year, is that you begin to listen to what he's not saying. There's always gaps. There are always gaps to be filled. There are always things that are not being said that I like us to listen to, and that is where you begin to see, because opportunities are not going to be thrown at you, because if they get to throw it at you, everybody will rush there and grab it, and you might not. But if you listen to the unsaid things, then you begin to understand that there's opportunity in every aspect. Thank you. So I'm introducing to you our speaker, Mr. Obi Eze Ude, is the founder, chief executive officer, and president of Beluxi Industries. He holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in Banking and Finance from the University of Houston in the United States and the University of Lagos. I think he had a degree from the University of Lagos. He wasn't certain. He started business as Beluxi Company, Beluxi and Company Limited in 1994. That specializes in the importation of biscuits from all over the world, from Scotland, from Taiwan, from Malaysia, and all sorts. And in March 2003, the federal government of Nigeria banned the importation and distribution of all kinds of biscuits in Nigeria. Subsequently, Beluxi and Company Limited devolves into Beluxi Industries Limited because it saw the opportunity in that pronouncement by government. And by December 2003, the United States of America Export and Import Bank, that's EXIM, approved for him $2.2 million local facility to build an ultra modern, full integrated and automated biscuit factory in Nigeria. And that is the first of its kind in Nigeria. By 2006, it has advanced and started manufacturing, and the name Biloxi Industry is integrated in our FCMG space. Now, the interesting thing I want to tell you about this industry is, he doesn't know, I didn't tell him, was when they started the crackers, I got a sample in post. Now, that was the system that I think Colgate used in the UK when they were trying to change the toothpaste from being the calcium-based toothpaste to the gel-based toothpaste. And when I saw it in post, I realized that I lived in an estate, so they posted it to everybody in the estate. And when I tested it, I just kept on going from one house to the other and asked for their own post. That's where is that biscuit that they sent? And some people did not even know what the biscuits, or if there was biscuit. So I collected the biscuits, and I went to my house, and I sat down, and I said, this person, whoever it is, I never knew this opportunity would come. Whoever it is has cornered this market, because there was nobody producing crackers in Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. Obi.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. My name is Obi Ezude. I like to tell people I'm not a chief. I work for Biloxi Industries, and all we do in Nigeria is to produce cream crackers, biscuits. And I tried this morning when I was coming, because when people hear Biloxi, they don't know what Biloxi stands for. So I told my son to loan me some few packets that I was going for a conference, so that I needed to show them, so they won't think that I'm doing some movie tricks. Thank you, Bayo, for your wonderful presentation. And I'll also thank my big brother, Kunle, I think he's not around, for doing all the interpretation and incisive analysis on the budget. And this morning, I don't really intend to get involved in analyzing budgets and trying to give too much analysis. Otherwise, I'll come in clear confrontation with Bayo and Kunle. And you know, I'm a baker, not a specialist like you in the area. This morning I was told that I have to restrict myself to reviewing the 2016 budget. But I protested. I told them no, that I'm not going to do that, because we tend to analyze too much in Nigeria, and most of the time we get lost in the analysis, and we forget that there are still some very good stories to tell about this great country we have. I remember in 2003, when I was trying to get into manufacturing, a friend of mine told me, like Bayo said, that I'm committing 10 years suicide, that will vanish from the surface of the earth by 10 years, and it will not work. Well, I told the person, the only person that can decide whether we will live or die is God. And I'm happy that I'm talking to Pastor Ben today in church, at least to tell him that God decided that we will live. My presentation actually this morning will be based strictly on the story of Biloxi, because I found myself over the years that based on the model we run in Biloxi, my greatest contribution to Nigeria will be to share the story and hopefully inspire more Biloxis. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have more Biloxis in Nigeria, then the whole budget thing is just another round of story. So, and I will try and limit myself to the story of Biloxi and see how maybe people can get some little inspiration from what we've done. Biloxi commenced operation in 1994. As a trading company, we are importing biscuits from all over the world. As you know, Bayo, in those days, you're a banker. We were pounding the thing, bringing in containers, and everywhere was filled with biscuits. Up to 2001, 2002, I was one of the largest importers of crackers in Nigeria, in sub-Saharan Africa. So I kept on telling my Malaysian friends that I think that I'm coming to the limit of this crazy importation, carrying containers, customs coming to you every day, under the table deals for you to bring out containers. So, of course, they will tell you 1 million reasons why it cannot be done in your country. Of course, power, lack of infrastructure, no this, no that. That's the normal bogey story they tell us. So I waited, and I was getting very frustrated with the whole thing. But around towards the late part of 2002, I have this habit of trying to talk to Pastor Ben at night, because calling him during the day is a crazy waste of time. So we have this business of talking around 11:30, 12, and one day, one of the days we are talking, the wife thought we have joined a witch club where we only recite some incantations at night. But anyway, Ben asked me a very important question. He now said to me, Obi, because of our discussion, what if they decide to ban biscuit in the budget? What are you going to do? I did not really bother thinking about the question. I told him, Ben, I will produce biscuit in Nigeria. And that was the end of the question. I knew where he was going, but I didn't want to bother with that. And again, another friend of mine who is a governor in one of the states called me and said that I must see him in his, one of these liaison offices here. I came down, and the same question Ben asked me, what's going to happen if they ban biscuit? I repeated myself. I said I will go into production. And that was the end of the discussion. So we talked about every other thing, and I left him. By March 2003, the same governor, the same state, former President Obasanjo announced complete total ban on biscuits, confectionaries, toothpicks, everything. Part of the diversification program he was trying to pursue. So a lot of my friends called me and was trying to tell me that we had died and when is the funeral date and the rest of them. So I told them that really that budget, no matter how it affects you, positively or negatively, there are always opportunities. It is how you interpret it. If I had interpreted the budget as a funeral party, that would have been the end. Now, but I decided that there must be a reason why the president of a company can wake up and decide to say, look, I'm going to diversify this economy and I'm going to ban certain things that we can't produce here. But I want to tell you the beautiful story, because the person that banned the product was actually my very good friend. So I decided to go and see him. And I'm talking about President Obasanjo, and the story is very incisive and very interesting. So I got to Otta to see him, and, like an old general, when it was my turn to go and see him, I got in there, and he took a very deep look at me and shouted that, Obi, I can never change my policy because of you. So I stood where I was looking at him. I said, can I sit down, sir? He said, yes. I said, okay. So I looked up at him, and I took a very clear glance at him, and I told him, I'm going to take you up on this one. And he said, what do you mean? I said, I will never smuggle for one day. But by the time you leave office, I'll give you a world-class product. So he now changed and said, are you serious? I said, yes. Then he now turned around and said that, you see, in the budget, we had a lot of physical incentives. If you do what you've told me you're going to do, I will support you. And that was what happened. I took him in, and then he supported us. The day I took the biscuit to the villa to see him, he was dancing all over the place. And then, in accordance with the budget, we're talking about budget here, I was given pioneer status. VAT was waived for biscuit industry because of our effort. And, to me, that is a clear interpretation of a budget and how you can take a budget and transform it into action. Okay? 2005, of course, all the specialists we have told us that it will not work. But in 2005, we finished. We launched a product into the Nigerian market. And like Tosin rightly said, again, within this context of Nigeria, I came up with a simple idea that the easiest way to market any kind of consumer product, particularly edible ones, that you must make contact with the consumers. And they must decide either way whether they like it or not. It's not for me to decide. So we did teamed up with UPS, and we tried to get the product into as many homes as possible. But like the typical Nigerian way, we have to be creative when things are difficult. So I listened to consultants and things like that, but I decided that, look, like Ben said, in a typical Nigerian setting, if you look at between 17 and 35 years, okay, we have over 60 million. Now, very simple, we targeted schools, okay, and we pushed in the product into young kids, teenagers, at least to be a starting point. By the time they started consuming it, a lot of adults took notice. And like I told one of my friends that I met in Abuja, somebody very up in the government, I said to him, look, I want to send you to some biscuits so you can share to your friend that visit you. So many people, they don't know, what am I going to do with biscuits? I said, well, just try. So I gave him the biscuits. I gave to his steward. By the time I came to see him in the evening in his guest house, they had opened 5 cartons for his visitors out of 25. Then he protested. He said that no more opening of the biscuits, that he needs to take it home to his kids. So when he got home, the kids mocked him, and he called me by 12 in the night. So he said, I never knew that my children have been eating this biscuit for ages. I said, yeah. I told him, if this is an election in your house and there's no rigging, I'll probably win you. So that was how we ended the story. And then since that day, I converted him into a believer in manufacturing. And then, I don't know how to use this. Do I need to be changing it? So that, because I've gone far in my discussion, because I don't want to waste anybody's time. How do I press it? Up or down? This is where we are. So, of course, after the Ikeja plant, the demand within 1 year was so much that we had to start the Abara plant. Of course, the Abara plant was a massive greenfield project. A lot of people thought I was crazy. Some people thought I was mad. But I don't know who is practicing the madness, whether they are or me now, I don't know. So we created the Abara factory in 2007 with 1 line. And then in 2009, it started working. Today in Biloxi, we have 5 lines. Now, but there is something very important I decided to put in this presentation so that people can understand the problem we have in Nigeria. Every day we talk about unemployment in this country. Every day we talk about it. But people really don't understand the impact of manufacturing in trying to reduce unemployment. Now, when I was trading in 2003, I was doing 1,000 containers from Malaysia a year. Every time I place order for Christmas, they have to import labor from Indonesia to be able to meet the Nigerian order. But even at that, I was only employing 40 people. Yes. And then it was that massive importation I was doing through Citibank. The report they sent to the US Exim from Citibank Nigeria was what qualified us for the loan they gave us. Because that was the only proof that was actually market in this country. Because there's no statistics. Now, by the time I opened the small factory in Ikeja, the starting staff strength was 385. Today, with 5 lines in Agbara, we have 2,512 staff. Now, I'm not talking about factory workers. About 215 in the last count of this are graduates that started with me. And I also want to speak about this because it's very important to me. When we started Biloxi, I made up my mind that Biloxi must be an institution that young Nigerians must run and operate. As of today, I have no expatriate. All the people working for me, all the 2,500 people working for me are all young Nigerians. Some of them have been with me since 2005. We started. Now, a whole bunch of these young kids working in the factory are secondary school finishers. Exactly what you have in the McDonald model. We try to bring them into Biloxi and groom them in our little culture. And, for your information, I think my factory staff interview is the only one I participate actively in. Because you see, when you begin to do things like that, then you begin to see the problem of this country. And this is where the battle will be won or lost in this country. Because if we are not careful about unemployment, no matter how we analyze the budget, that is the potential time bomb. If we are not careful about making sure we invest in manufacturing to take these young kids finishing from secondary school and begin to make them to focus, learn how to work hard, learn how to be responsible, then we are preparing for another Nigerian kind of Arab Spring. Because if it explodes, nobody knows where it's going to end. What we have in the Northeast is a typical example. If it cascades down to the southern part of Nigeria, then we'll be in very, very serious trouble. So that is the story of Nigeria, and that is the story of Biloxi, and that is how we used 2003 budget to create an institution that everybody seems to identify with today. Now, having said that, I want to get into the 2016 budget. And here, I don't want to talk so much because Kunle and Bayo, they have said everything that needs to be said. But the highlights are very clear. The deficit, the amount they are going to spend, and the deficit, revenue, expenditure, and social agenda. I only want to talk about the social agenda because it's very important. And then I want to tell you how that one fits into the economy. When, after the elections, and the governors were sworn in, we were looking for a very clear-cut strategy to the north. Because up till now, we are not selling in the north a lot because we don't have the capacity. Everything we make is all sold out before it gets to the market. So we keep on adding lines to be able to provide enough capacity. So when we added our 4th line, the 5th line was just added last 2 months, I saw the governor of Kaduna State. I said to him that we are now ready for the north. I think we can begin to make inroads into the north. And I told him that I have a little idea. He said, what's the idea? I said, I'm going to give you some biscuits, to identify the primary, secondary, and nursery schools in Kaduna State. You can give them the biscuits free, we won't charge you. So that we can see whether it will work. Maybe you can use it for your lunch program and see whether the kids will like it. Because we give a lot to the NEMA people because of high energy you have in biscuits. And, of course, the preservation, it doesn't spoil easily. So he said, okay, that you look into it. Last week, they called me. He said, Obi, look, in furtherance to the APC program and the budget that was announced, we are not going to take the thing free from you anymore. But if you want to give us, we'll accept. We are now going to buy it. That is going to launch his launch program on Monday. The only problem is that he didn't tell me on time. But I promised him that when they fish on Monday and his commissioner comes down, we'll work out something that will make us to support the thing. Now, why am I saying this? The governor called me and said that, look, the only way we can come out of this problem is to support companies in Nigeria that are making or offering any kind of service. And if I buy biscuit from you, it means that you're going to employ more people. It means you will expand your operation. It means you pay more people salary. The country will get better. Maybe one day you will be forced to have multiple facilities in Nigeria to employ our people and consume our products. So in the budget again, there is 300 billion that is there for SME, any Nigerian company in manufacturing, in services, to be able to tap from. So, and these are things people like us try to look for in the budget. You know, interpretation and analysis are for pure economists, you know, financial institution advisors, but in the budget we try to look at things that can help us to make some credible and serious social impact. And in the budget, the social agenda is where Biloxi fits in. Now, I'll go to the next one so that I don't, spend so much time. And now, the implication to manufacturing. Of course, everybody knows, and they don't have to go to Harvard or Oxford to know what is happening now. The biggest threat we're going to face with the dwindling revenue for government and lack of forex from CBN is the devaluation of the naira. Now, what will happen? The biggest problem we have from suppliers now is they can't find money to give us raw material input. The micro one we import from abroad. You can imagine, Biloxi, we have over 75 SMEs that supply things to us. Now, if you remove people like Flour Mill or Dangote, the big guns, that supply us some of our inputs, the other micro additives like our enzymes, our yeast that is not manufactured locally, they have to source these things, source forex to import it and bring to us. Now, the problem is that they can't even find money to import these things and give to us. They have to buy from black market, and some of them are buying from Ghana. They go to Ghana to get FX. Some of them are going to Togo to import to be able to supply to us. So that is a very serious implication to what we're doing. But what some of us are thinking, even before this problem started happening, is that we are thinking about backwards integration now. We want to begin to look at some of these inputs that we can manufacture locally to support what we're doing, to employ our people, to reduce poverty and diseases, and of course improve the standard of living of our people. So that's what we're trying to do. Now, of course, the implication again is like what Bayo said, is that the economy will be reflated, massive capital expenditure will happen, from the works, power sector, the transport section, all these things will happen. So the implication that the economy will obviously be reflated, assuming that everything works out as planned. Now, of course, the inflation will be there because of the dwindling revenue and the devaluation of the naira. Governance issues, taxes, like Bayo pointed out, the taxes will increase because when the revenues are going down, Pastor Ben knows that in Lagos State they had to drive people like us out of Lagos because of excessive tax. So the tax will obviously go up. And of course, manufacturers, we're going to face very low margin in sales. But again, this is the beating you have to take to make sure that things are moving on as planned. I'll go to the next one, which is opportunities. Now, of course, the government expects a growth of 4.4 in 2016. That's a very big opportunity because if things work out and there are growths, SMEs, manufacturing companies, everybody will tend to benefit from that. Of course, we go down to the employment and purchasing power. There will be increased employment. If there is increase in activity in the manufacturing sector, there will be increase in employment. Government is focused on solid minerals, manufacturing and all. Now, manufacturing is the one I want to talk about in this area now, on the implication of the government tax budget position. one of the biggest problems we have in Nigeria is that we have this thinking that the only way we can survive in this country is to keep on importing everything we consume. Now, I would say something about manufacturing in this sense. If any of you that travels to Germany often, you will notice that in Germany, everything they consume is made in Germany. And what manufacturing does is to make an economy very resilient. If you look at the whole of Western Europe, of all the economies there, Germany remains the most stable economy because they have strong SME based. Everything they make is done locally there. And then the giant ones are being supported by the small companies that are into manufacturing. The BMWs, the Mercedes, all the SMEs supply them all the inputs they need to make all the big cars we drive down here. Threats. Now, one of the biggest problem again, we always come back to this one, is the instability in the parallel market and the foreign official market. Now, as of today, I don't know what the rates are. Some people say it's 305, some people say it's 301, so I don't know. So, and this is one of the biggest problems we'll face in manufacturing this year. Because at the end of the day, no matter what we do in manufacturing, and as Tosin can confirm, that most of the things we still use, the critical raw material that bring these things together are not made locally. So even if you source 80% of the raw material locally, like in biscuits, you still need those specialized additives, and they must be imported. So with this instability in FX market, we are facing an incredible threat that we may come to a stage where we may not even have the inputs for manufacturing. Of course, the other threat is possible devaluation of the naira. The next one is low margin, high taxes, inflation, rising unemployment, and corporate governance issues. Remedy for these things, of course, import substitution, buy local raw materials, export diversification strategy, standard products for export, efficiency research, and SME funding. So these are things Bayo and Kule have touched on, and I don't want to bore you with all that. So this is our conclusion of this small little presentation I have today. I just wanted to end it with two quotes from John Kennedy and Milton Valley, so that you can look at it and see that despite all the problem, despite all the threats, the only solution, or one of the solutions out of the problem, is for us to focus deeply in manufacturing so we can increase the productive capacity of this country, employ more Nigerians, reduce poverty and diseases, and increase the standard of living of our people. Thank you for listening, and I'm happy for your attention.
It's time for questions. I think we can write our questions. Thank you, Mr.
Obi.
Okay, I should say thank you. Thank you, Obi. I guess he has spoken a lot, but I see a lot of opportunity in what he has said. I can run through the opportunities for you. He mentioned something about he has a lot of SMEs in his chain. And immediately, on top of my head, I could see that if I run a consulting firm, I could easily log into him to help him employ services for the lines that is increasing. I could easily be on the supply chain. Please, you can continue to write your questions while I talk. I could easily log on to supply chain issues. Like the gentleman I said, provide me power, could easily come and say, Oga, how can we begin to look at reducing your cost of power? Because when Mr. Liberty was talking, he said something about if you drop the costs of power, electricity, if you take this generator issue concern, you drive down your cost by 40%. It's very interesting. I'll give you, because power becomes an issue to manufacturer. NEPA gives us at 28, 29 kilowatt naira per kilowatt per hour. If you throw in your diesel, your cost comes to about 79 naira per kilowatt per hour. Now, at 79 naira per kilowatt per hour, it depends on the megabytes that you use or whatever. So if you can get power at 28 naira, 29 naira per kilowatt per hour, you have saved at least more than 50, less than 50% or more than 50% of your cost on power is gone. Now, take for example a company that uses about 8 million naira to run the business on a monthly basis, apart from the maintenance of the generator, apart from the overhead cost of having electricians or mechanicals or engineers or whatever stand by monitoring the generator, you are already spending 8 times 12 as against 3 times 12 on power generation. So opportunities is that we don't have to sit down and keep, I hope somebody's picking the questions, is that opportunities are there for everybody. I had a gentleman came to my office and said, come, you have a facility, we have 3 factories. You have 3 factories, how can I clean your business for you? And I felt, you know what, take over all my cleaners. I don't want to deal with them again. Take over all my cleaners, I pay you every month, you sort them out. So there are opportunities. See, why I'm saying this is that if you're looking at Obi, you begin to wonder, when am I going to get $2.2 million? But it did not start big. It started small. And the issue I tell people is always start small. A gentleman came to my office about 15 years ago, and we're talking. And no, not up to 15 years, about 13 years ago, and we're talking. And he asked me a simple question. I said, have you read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon? Because it's about saving. And he asked me a question. He said, when are you going to become a Dangote? And I said, Dangote did not start like that. It started small. So we must have the culture of starting small. Because no manufacturer today came to the market with 1 billion naira and decided to go and build a factory. He must have post-test the market. He must have known that there's a market, like he did. He started by trading. He knew there was a market. He post-tested the market. He fed the market for a number of years before he divulged into industries. So there are always opportunities in the industry. So thank you. So quickly, we go to the questions.
You can read it, then I'll just...
Let me just...
Yeah, you can read
as soon as I read it, I will give it to you. Yes. Thank you. Now, the first question is from... Okay, it's from Kenny Olatue. He said, I was privileged to taste Biloxi crackers before production in 2005. I'm happy about the progress made by the group. How about cookies? How about the cookie project you developed abroad in the light of this forex regime? What about the cookie project you developed abroad in light of the... Well, I don't understand that. Okay. The second one said, what will happen to our economy when we inflate without adequate manufacturing base? Okay, what happens to our economy when we inflate without adequate manufacturing base to absorb the funds injected into the economy? I feel we're among
Don't worry,
African without due. Maybe you should take the question and read it. I couldn't make out with some handwriting, so I'm sorry.
Okay, the third one is, dear Biloxi manufacturer, does Biloxi manufacture its product packaging? If not, who does? Will Biloxi backward integrate into doing that, thereby making it off the current suppliers? When government banned biscuits in Nigeria, was smuggling of the product in the Rift, or how did the custom handle the issue? Okay. How do you recruit your SS student leavers? Is it an outsource function? Okay, they have a lot. You have planned to franchise their business. Oh, okay. Okay. The first question is about the cookie project. Now, when we started Biloxi, our objective was very clear. We were not interested in making too many things at a time because there was clear human capital issues that we needed to resolve. And so we focused clearly on crackers because we just want to make one thing first, be very proficient, effective, and efficient in that before we start moving into something else. Because the tendency is that if you want to do too many things at the same time, you get muddled up in a situation where you're trying to bite more than you can chew. Because we are using a world-class equipment, we needed to train our people to know how to use this equipment. We needed to train them to know how to measure the batches in the recipe, to know that the quality is consistent day in, day out. And you see, I wanted to move into so many things, but each time you assess and audit your quality control process and procedure, you still find out there's a lot of deficit. You keep on correcting them until you get it right. So it took us some time to get it right. In the last 3-4 years, we've been able to stabilize everything. So we are trying to work on a cookie brand this year, and hopefully before the end of second quarter, we will introduce a new cookie into the market just to add variety to some of our teeming consumers. So I don't know if that answers your question, Kenny. But that is in the plans. We are going to add more products, certainly. Now, the next question is about packaging. Now, the question of packaging is a very interesting one. And I want to tell you the little story about packaging. In 2003, 2005, I think 2005, 2006, when we started production, we had to import all our packaging from South Africa because there was no local company that could actually produce the quality of the packaging we wanted that would protect the integrity of the product. Because we wanted to make a world-class product. We didn't want to add a lot of bicarbonate like our competitors were doing and just present rubbish to our people that in the long run may not be very healthy. So we imported. But you know, then Dangote had a subsidiary that produces wrappers. So I went to him, I said, look, Alaji, I understand you have this subsidiary, and I'm trying to get your people to do this thing for us because they have the machine. And the machine was being underutilized, and he didn't know. So I spoke to the Indian guy that was running it. Of course, the typical thing, he dismissed me. But luckily, one of the Nigerian guys there called me and said, can you please explain to me what you really want us to do for you? I explained to the guy, and he went back to Alaji and told Alaji. Now, the Indian guy came up with another stumbling block, that they don't have the plate in Nigeria. Then Alaji asked him, where do you get the plate? He said, in Dubai. How much? He said, it's ₦1 million. In 2005, ₦1 million is a lot of money. So I told the guy, I'm not going to pay you for the plate because if you start producing it over time, you can amortize it. So why would you want me to pay you for the plate? So we ended up in Alaji's table, and I won the argument, and he overruled them and told them to spend $1 million and make a plate for Obi. Now, by the time we made that in ballpark, was like magic. All the same group of people that say that this thing cannot be done, all of them adopted that as standard. And everybody started making for us. Today we have over 5 suppliers. And most of them were the people that told me in 2006 that it was impossible to make in Nigeria. So to answer your question, we don't have any interest in diversifying backwards in packaging, since we have people now who have enormous capacity and have invested money and the price is competitive. You know, so again, that is part of our contribution to the packaging industry. So there is really no need to begin to compete with them as long as they are efficient and they are producing what we want and the price is competitive. Now, but if if for any reason they decide to collude to make it impossible for us, certainly we'll have to go back and diversify and challenge them and make the field very open and competitive. So that is the answer to that one. Now, you were asking a question on when government banned biscuits in Nigeria, was smuggling the product, the risk of the product, or how did the custom handle the issue and things like that? The truth of the matter is that the ban on the product, yes, helped us at the early stages. But our model was not really to expect protection from government forever. So we went out to make international product locally. So even with the smuggling and custom compromising to allow it to come in, they couldn't compete with us because we had better pricing, better quality, our product is fresher, because by the time they smuggle into Nigeria, given that the biscuit shelf life is 12 months, some of them spend 8 months in transit. So by the time they come here, 4 months into the expiration, nobody likes to buy it. And of course, mothers, we give a lot of thanks to mothers that we're able to educate the kids that our product is made here and is fresher. You know, and they could eat it and they are sure of the quality and they are sure of when it was made. Not something that was smuggled and expired and restamped. So it wasn't really an issue whether they allow millions of containers to come in. We were ready for competition. We had better price. We had better product in the market at that time. The ban was very strong. And then, we didn't have any reason to worry. I heard you mentioned about enzyme, 7 other materials that must be imported. Have you considered working with our university, Unibado, to produce these enzymes? Well, the answer to this one is no. We haven't tried to work with them because the last time we checked and asked a few of the professors involved in food processing, what they told us is that they don't have any facility in Nigeria to make enzymes because of the health concerns. We don't have the regulatory backdrop to be able to protect people in case there's any industrial accident. Because enzymes and yeasts are, for all we know, most of them are like bacteria-based things, but they have been diluted so much that we can consume it without feeling any kind of illness, So the last check we made, they said no, they can't do it. So, and we really didn't bother to go further because we know that it's not something that is so critical that we cannot continue to import until we can make local sources available. The beer manufacturing people, other beverage people that use even larger volumes than us are still imported because of the same concern. So we are not interested in going to that route now. Our job is to focus on production and make sure that we deliver good product to our consumers. Now, the next question is, how do you replicate the standard process of making crackers biscuits? Since you say that you didn't have any expatriate working in your company. Well, my answer to this question is a very simple one. Biscuit making or any other manufacturing is not rocket science. We are not trying to invent the wheel in Biloxi. What we are doing really is taking something that has been done before and trying to localize it. Okay? Standardization is a function of practice, commitment, focus. Okay? Nigerians are one of the brightest set of people you can see on the surface of the earth. What we need to do really is to believe in ourselves. I do not. I do not believe that we have to have expatriates working with us for the rest of our lives to be able to develop our country. Because the truth is that no foreigner, no matter how benevolent the person is, can develop Nigeria for us. So we might as well begin to deal with what we have. The Nigerians are very hardworking. They are very brilliant. All you need is to create an environment and things will work very well. So that is my answer to that question. I don't know if it meets your expectation, but that's really the position. Okay, now this one says, how do you recruit your SS student leavers? Is this an outsourced function The answer to that one is no. I don't outsource the recruitment of the factory staff. They're not casual workers. They are factory staff. And I'll tell you a story about outsourcing. My experience with outsourcing of people that work in the factory is that you get all manners of people that will be brought to you because they just pick anybody they want. But you see, we are in food industry where discipline, commitment, and passion is very critical. So what we do is that the factory is located in an area where you have a lot of low-income people, high-density area. So what we do is just to send out the words and advertise in churches, schools, that we are looking for workers. And they all come and fill the forms. And they are all interviewed on merit. You know, nobody brings them. You don't know anybody. We have standard criteria for picking them. And one of the most important criteria is that they must have finished secondary school and they must be living with their parents. The reason for that is very simple. We want to bring in young generation of Nigerians who can understand that what we are giving them is just a transit kind of position. They start from Biloxi, but they must make irreversible commitment to go to school, because we don't want to start training ruffians or rascals. So that is why we are very particular about that. You know? So, and that is why, you know, we don't outsource this on factory workers, unfortunately. And another thing we do, why we do it this way, is that all our factory staff, you know, we feed them free. You know, we don't charge anything for that. And then we have a clinic well equipped where they are taken care of by qualified nurses and doctors that come on regular basis. But the nurses in the factory are permanent. So these are some of the reasons why we don't outsource it. And another important reason is this. You know, when you keep on outsourcing things like factory workers, you're in a very big risk. Now, what you are telling them in essence is that they are casual, there's no commitment. And then you're letting them run multi-billion naira machines. Now, what you get is cannibalization of your machine, stealing, you know, pilfering. But when they know that as long as they believe in working hard, as long as they obey the rules and they have a job, then you have total commitment. And that is what we have in Biloxi. People often come to me and tell me, oh, how do you deal with pilfering? And I always ask them, what do you mean by pilfering? They said, you know, don't they steal biscuits? I say, why would they steal it? They eat as much as they want. You know? So, and you know, and when you begin to make people feel that they don't have any dignity, they begin to act like animals. So, and that is what we have tried to make sure that. That's why we try to make sure that it doesn't happen in Biloxi. Now, you know, I don't want to join issues with people like Bayo, my friends, who are experts in outsourcing. But this is really an area where I disagree fiercely with them. Because we have to begin to know that this is the only country we have. You know, it could have been any of us. These kids were not, they didn't decide where they were born. You know, so we have to show some level of empathy. That look, that this is Nigeria, this is your own country, you can work hard and you can be whatever you want to be. So, and most of them have been with me for years. You know, the ladies have all gotten married, they all have kids. And, you know, I mean, and this is the joy of building a new society to me, you know, beyond just giving them money. So that is my answer to the outsourcing issue on the factory workers. Does Biloxi have any plan to franchise their businesses? I think I have a straight answer. The answer is no. Because we are dealing with edible items, and we want to be sure that we keep the quality of the product and the integrity of the product the way it ought to be. For some of you that fly most of the major airlines, like Lufthansa, you see our product in Lufthansa, you see it in KLM, you see it in Emirates, South African Airlines, and most of the domestic airlines. You know, and to us, the Biloxi brand is what we hold in trust for Nigeria and posterity, and we're not about to use because of money to begin to bring in plants that will make it, you know, to lose its value and what my consultant friends will call the brand equity. And if you see that, if you look at our wrapper, we always have Nigerian flag and say that it's proudly Nigerian. And I'm always thrilled when some of my friends drop in South Africa and send me pictures of what was served inside the plane, and some of them in Kenya and Dubai. To me, that is our own modest contribution to national development and our source of pride as Nigerians. What will happen to our economy when they inflate the adequate manufacturing base to absorb the funds? I don't really like to speculate too much. Like Bayo said, the experience with Econet. One of the biggest problem I have is that we always like to analyze so much that we analyze ourselves out of, you're sick, you're telling the doctor to give you medicine, and you're already worried about what will happen when I get well, but you're still sick. So let them reflate it. Let's worry about how we manage the prosperity that comes with the reflation. That's really my view on this. Because the moment you start reflecting, there are a lot of people that are waiting for opportunities to get into businesses. A whole lot of them. But because things are not clear, the economy is in downturn, nobody knows what tomorrow will bring, a lot of people who are not strong-willed like us will keep staying on the fence. So let them reflect. Let us worry about the fallout of reflation. I mean, it's better we manage the fallout than the whole thing going down the drain. So that is my view on that one. So I'm not bothered about what will happen when they reflect. Let them reflect first, and then we'll start worrying about what will happen. Because if you're not alive, you won't be able to enjoy whatever life will have to give you. Yeah. The final question is how can the challenge of capital and acquisition from financial institutions by such who do not have collateral please advise? Well, I think Bayo answered this question very well, and there are a lot of institutions that are there to support startups. But what is very important for me to point out is that, everybody keep on talking about capital, finance, this, that. But I think the critical thing in business, in my view, is a clear idea of what you want to do first. Because if you don't have a clear idea or clear understanding of what you're going to do, even if somebody gives you money, you end up either buying private jet or, if you're somebody that likes to party, you end up doing all the clubs in Lagos. So that is basically the thing. And then, of course, when you have an idea and you're able to articulate it very well, then if you approach somebody to give you money and you're able to defend your position properly, adequately, then the other one is easy. You can go backwards and get services of financial consultants and experts who can put this thing in a clear, clean-cut model that can be bankable. So I think that's my view on that one. Because when I was trying to go into manufacturing in 2003, and we were applying for U.S. Exim loan, all my bank friends told me it will not work. So I told them, okay, but I have everything to lose if I don't try. But I have everything to gain if I try. And I tried. And at the critical stage in the argument, collateral came up. And I argued successfully that if I have any kind of collateral anywhere that is worth $2 million in Nigeria, I will sell it to put it into biscuits. So I told the guys to their face that if you're talking about collateral and you don't want to help us, no problem, I'll go home. And that was the pivotal moment in the whole transaction. And it was approved without recourse to any collateral, because I was very clear in my thoughts, in my mind, what I'm supposed to do with the money. And the facts are there that the market is in Nigeria. And I made it clear to them that they themselves, regardless of the interpretation and analysis from IMF and World Bank about Nigeria, those statistics is not really correct. Let me not say it's not true, but I just told them it's not correct. That by the time we start, they will know that Nigeria is the greatest economic power in Africa. The only problem we have is just that we simply don't want to put our house in order. And I know that if, God willing, we're able to get this 2016 budget working, we will, God willing, rebound as a great economic power in sub-Saharan Africa.
Amen.
I thank you for
Thank you.
listening.
Thank
and
you,
God
Obi.
bless you.
Thank you. No, don't go. Somebody asked a question that they needed to see the biscuit again for those that do not know. They want to see the sample. It's a shame. You should have brought us samples.
Oh, no.
Do you have?
I will send sample to
No, you should send sample to the church.
She knows sample.
No, you send sample to the church.
I will send to her.
Okay. You didn't send to us now, Mommy Ben.
Okay, I will send to the pastor.
Okay, thank you. Before he leaves, you see, I said that we should always listen to the things that he is not saying. He mentioned in his presentation that they couldn't access the northern part of Nigeria, and that he's just making inroad into Kaduna State. Now, the person that asked the question concerning franchising, why don't you think of being a distributor? Why don't you think of taking the northern side of the market? If he can tell you as a manufacturer that it doesn't have anybody present in the northern part of Nigeria, then it's a clue for us to know that there's a market or there's something for him, for you, or for us to deal with. Thank you very much, Obi. Just a quick announcement, please. Next on the agenda is lunch, and thereafter the session resumes at 1:20 p.m. The agricultural sector will remain here. The oil, gas, and power sector will be on the 5th floor, while the real estate sector will be on the 3rd floor. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening.